spooky month. It's October. We have to talk about Luigi's Mansion. Luigi, go to the spooky place, do the Ghostbuster thing, you know? It's time. What else would you do, you know? You got an obligation to talk about the spooky thing in spooky month. I did it last year. Don't look. Don't check the video history. I did it last year. So we're talking about the Luigi's Mansion series. Because the first here's the thing about the Luigi's Mansion series. The first game's really good. I haven't played the second game because it's on the 3DS. The third game's really good. The first game is the best one though. Immersion is a big deal for me in a game. When I'm exploring a world or environment, I want to feel like I'm there. If a character in a game feels a certain way, I want to understand why, and if it's the protagonist, I want to feel the same way as them. To me, a game should be more than just a collection of mechanics and levels. It should be an experience that transports the player somewhere, just like you would want from a book or a movie. Because of this, sometimes my opinions towards games can tend to place a lot more weight on presentation than other people's. So, let's talk about the Luigi's Mansion games, specifically about that presentation. The first Luigi's Mansion game debuted as a launch title for the Nintendo GameCube. It showed off the technical capabilities of the console when it launched, so a major emphasis of the game was on its graphics and atmosphere. And man, is Luigi's Mansion dripping in atmosphere. Mechanically, I'm gonna be honest, this game is pretty basic, and the controls, well, they haven't aged super well. The game is certainly playable, but the joystick aiming is inverted, as it often is in older 3D games, and there's no way to change it in the game options or anything. Since aiming is a massive part of the game, you have to aim your Poltergust 3000 and flashlight to interact with basically everything in the game, this problem is pretty persistent. Maybe this is just me, but I never really got used to the control scheme and found myself having trouble with enemy encounters late in the game because I kept aiming my vacuum the wrong way. It's annoying, but not quite enough to make me quit the game in frustration or anything like that. As far as the game's plot, you're this green guy named Luigi, and you wander up to this mansion that you won in a contest you didn't enter. I guess Luigi never encountered scammers in Brooklyn. Luigi steps inside the mansion and almost gets killed by a ghost, but is saved by a small potato with glasses and a vacuum. Once Luigi and the potato, who introduces himself as Professor Alvin Gadd, escape from the mansion to the professor's lab, Egad explains that the mansion only appeared a few days prior out of nowhere, and recently he had seen Mario head towards the mansion, but he didn't come back. This is Mario we're talking about, the guy who has traveled the world and fought who knows how many guys, and he got taken out immediately. This premise is pretty awesome. It makes the player feel like there are real stakes involved. Whatever weirdness is going on in this mansion, these guys are a real threat. Next thing you know, Luigi has a vacuum cleaner strapped to his back from Egad and is sent in to fight some ghosts and try to save his brother. The air of genuine horror and tension exploring a new area never lets up in Luigi's Mansion. Not only that, but the contrast of the dark, unexplored areas with the lit, conquered ones leads to a sense of progression that is just awesome. And it makes the late game bit where all the lights in the mansion turn off again super effective. Luigi is terrified in this game, and I'm pretty much with him all the way. The boss with King Boo and weird Bowser puppet is awesome. It's just great. Luigi's Mansion is clearly a lighthearted horror game with some silly portrait ghosts, but it is still, first and foremost, a horror game. With that said, let's talk about this abomination. Okay, no, Luigi's Mansion 2 is a good game, but I have notes and the internet likes hyperbole. Unlike the first game, which was developed internally at Nintendo, Darkmoon was developed by Next Level Games, a studio that was, up until this point, famous for Transformers Cybertron Adventures, and some other games no one cared about. Because the game was on a handheld, Next Level decided to make a bold change to the game's structure compared to the original. There are multiple mansions, and there's not even, the number of mansions isn't 2. So, I'm a little confused. Is it Luigi's Mansions? You had one job. You had a couple. But one main, that was the main job. And you did it wrong. Like I mentioned, I haven't played Darkmoon, but I've seen the footage. I've seen enough. Breaking up the game like this feels worse. Because each locale is smaller, the scale of the adventure feels lesser as well. The game's visuals are also a bold departure from the originals. Things have been transformed into a more cartoony, angular art style. In general, this game just takes itself a lot less seriously than the original. This is something that I really don't like on the whole. However, I like the ghost dog. I don't really know why. It's kind of stupid, but I don't know. I like it. Don't think about how he died. For your sake. Polterpup aside, there are hardly any genuinely scary sequences to speak of in the game, and the ones that do exist almost seem out of place. To be clear, the game is still trying to be spooky, but more of a friendly Halloween decoration kind of spooky than actual horror. The stakes are there, but you don't feel them nearly as strongly as you do in the original game because of this. This is a bummer to me because the first Luigi's Mansion game is the only one I can think of that sort of fits into this genre of family-friendly horror. Most horror games have blood and stuff, and Luigi's Mansion was a cool alternative for younger audiences, but oh well. Now, mechanically, Darkmoon is... they nailed it. Yeah, as much as I want to hate on this game, I have to at least concede to the Darkmoon fans out there that from a gameplay standpoint, the mechanical additions look pretty sick. I've also played Luigi's Mansion 3, which builds off of Darkmoon, meaning I've experienced the mechanics enough to know that I roughly understand how they feel to play, which is, in a word, good. And speaking of that third game, let's talk about it. Luigi's Mansion 3 carries over the same art style as Darkmoon, but ditches the level structure. Mechanically, the game is fantastic, I love it, but tension-wise it's still a bit lacking. The removal of the level structure is a good change, but the lights in sections you've already been to stay off rather than lighting up like they do in the original. This could hypothetically be an attempt to make the tension a through line throughout exploring the whole hotel, but the lack of contrast between a safe and unexplored area actually makes me feel more indifferent to new locations because there's no distinction. If there's one area of this game that I think was done 100% right, it's the sequence where all of the characters get kidnapped. Finding Professor Egad trapped in a painting was a particularly cool reveal. The idea of tricking and trapping the person who is responsible for the only device that's capable of capturing the ghosts really adds to the sense that King Boo is a threat. Too bad this is undercut by the ghosts being incompetent threats elsewhere. Yeah, the silliness. Sometimes this game is genuinely comedic. Like those costumes. It's pretty funny how obviously fake they are. But doing this makes the ghosts feel a lot less ominous than they were in the original. In Luigi's Mansion 1, you didn't really get to understand King Boo's motivations until late in the game, but it's pretty obvious the hotel is a ploy to capture the Mario cast from the start. To be clear, graphically and mechanically, Luigi's Mansion 3 is a triumph, but it will never be my favorite. The atmosphere and mood of the original just make it a much more memorable experience. There's little indication that things will be heading back in the direction of that original game either. Nintendo wants to keep the Mario franchise lighthearted, and Next Level seems pretty dead set on using that angular cartoony art style of theirs and keeping the scariness toned down. The first game is unlikely to be dethroned anytime soon. So there you have it. Just pick up a copy of Luigi's Mansion and experience it for yourself. See what I'm talking about? Oh wait, you can. Nintendo! So yeah, it's a shame that GameCube games are so tricky to pick up these days. Be really cool if Nintendo would release legacy titles without gating them behind $50 monthly subscriptions. Are you kidding me? Put the GameCube on there at least, Nintendo. Let the people play Luigi. Let them do it. Let them experience it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Non-spooky video. Will it be turkey themed? November? Who knows? Who knows? It won't be. But maybe turkey video. No turkey. But think about it. Turkey video. Maybe next year. Maybe next year.